Hello everyone, and welcome to another wonderful webinar in the Serenity series, Legal Learning for Intelligent Entrepreneurs. I'm going to jump straight in and get started. Sharing my screen here. Okay. So today our topic is, I'm just going to pop this over there so I don't get distracted by the screen. Okay, today our topic is how to be seriously safe, future-proofing your business. And we're going to go quite deep into a number of topics that are generally thought about only as being relevant to larger corporations or governments or not-for-profits. But we're going to look at how we can adapt those concepts to sole traders, micro businesses, online businesses, people working from home. Because caring professionals, those creative professionals, people who are passionate about their work and their business, we deserve peace and protection too. And these are concepts that can deliver that security, that long-term sustainability. So we're going to explore what they can look like in terms of our business. So, first, a little bit about me, in case you haven't been to one of my webinars before. Sorry, I've just got my family walking past outside. In case you haven't been to one of my webinars before, I am a homeschooling mum. I have 3 kids, and they are, at the moment, dancing right outside the window behind my screen. But they're generally always around, and hopefully they won't come in and interrupt this webinar. But if they do, that's part of being a work from home solopreneur. I'm also a lawyer and a mediator. I almost gave up law at one stage and went into mediation intending that I just couldn't stand the adversarial nature of the legal system anymore, and I really wanted a more connected way of practice. And in doing so, I came online and started looking for ways to learn how to market my business. And in that, my mediation business, in that I discovered a whole world of entrepreneurs who were just like me, who wanted to care for their clients, who wanted a connected, integrated, holistic way of doing business, and they needed legal services. So I was able to forgive myself for becoming a lawyer, transform into the kind of lawyer I had always wanted to be, and now I'm the lawyer who works in fairyland, and I couldn't be happier. So I'm really, really excited to deliver this learning to you today, because I think it is just so important, and it's something that is not freely available. It's not out there. It's not part of the discussion on what it means to be an entrepreneur in these days, particularly an online working from home parent whose life is wholly integrated into your business. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that makes many people run in fear or bury their head in the sand or think that's just too boring for words, but I promise you it's not going to be. We're going to talk about risk management and why it's important. We're also going to talk about good governance and what that means in the context of a micro business, a one-woman show, a one-man enterprise. And we're going to look at how risk management and good governance in practice, what does it actually look like? How do they keep you safe? Okay, and so I'm going to talk quite fast and leap right in because we've got a lot to cover today, and we'll see how we go. So the first thing is the definition of risk. I'm just going to move this, find a spot for it where it fits. Maybe over here. Yeah, that should be a good one. Okay, I've got a big monitor, as you can see when I'm looking up there. I'm looking at the top of my monitor. So risk, what is risk? Risk at its most basic level is uncertainty. It's anything that causes us anxiety. It's anything that we don't know. It's all those what ifs, those niggling doubts, those little worries, and also some of the big worries too. But it's anything where we can't actually pin down what exactly is going to happen. And risk can be both threat and opportunity, because in both of those cases there is the potential for things to go haywire, for things to, or even if they go well, for that to bring with it unexpected issues. And the thing about risk and uncertainty is, as this quote from Casey Neistat says, life or business shrinks and expands in direct proportion to your willingness to assume risk. So our comfort level with risk is one of the things that determines how big and how strong and how quickly our business will grow. And we'll look into that more in a few minutes. But first I want to propose the concept that risk isn't just what you might think of when you think about risk. So I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs about risk over the years, and because I'm a lawyer, a lot of them immediately associate risk solely with legal aspects. And they tell me that, they're very risk tolerant, which is something that many entrepreneurs are. We're comfortable with uncertainty. We tend to leap into things without having all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed, without needing to know every step of the way. We take lots of leaps of faith, and that's an awesome thing. And that's why we're here in this business. We've got that willingness to assume risk that brought us into this business in the first place. But at the same time, we are also quite often subject to self-sabotage. And that is often because of that we stretch the boundaries of our willingness to assume the risk. So I want to propose a view of risk as a holistic thing that it extends into every area of our life and our business operations. So there's not just the legal risk. There's not just the legal uncertainty around, am I complying with all the regulations? Am I exposing myself to liability? Am I likely to be, have consumer claims made against me? Anything like that. There's also the financial risk, which is another obvious one, which is, am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I going to, get enough clients this month? Am I going to hit my income goals? Am I going to actually make this business sustainable and successful in the sense of making a good profit? Is this business going to support my family? All of those sorts of financial risks are very obvious again. Then there's the technical risks, which again are obvious. Am I backed up? Do I have my data backed up? Am I using safe software? Am I going to be subject to malicious attack in some way, such as from a virus or malware or any of those sorts of things? What happens if my computer fails and doesn't turn on one morning? All of those risks. And there's interactions between these risks too I want you to think about, because for example, with that, if my computer doesn't turn on, that then becomes a financial risk as well. Do I have enough financial buffer to replace the technology that might fail? The technology becomes a legal risk. Is my communication system, are my communication systems safe? Am I adequately protecting my clients' confidential information through my use of technology? And if not, what are the legal risks involved? So they're all interconnecting. Some that aren't often thought about are like the logistical risks. Can I deliver what I say I'm going to deliver? How is that delivery going to happen? What other unexpected hiccups can occur in that delivery process? What are the actual processes and systems and structures that need to be in place to actually facilitate me delivering what I've promised to my clients? And even just marketing, making those offers to clients. All of those sort of little puzzle pieces in the chain of operation. Then there's relationships and the risks involved in relationships. And it's not just the risk that your kids will walk in while you're doing a webinar, which is a highly likely risk. It's also risks like, risks like your family might disapprove of what you're doing and how you're going to handle that. It's also things like what happens if you get 50 million Facebook requests from Facebook friend requests from clients. It's also, what is the relationship you want to have with your clients? And where are the boundaries around that relationship? Are your clients your friends, and do you buy from clients and utilize their services too? And how does that muddying of the water affect your ability to provide a quality service to them? Does it enhance it, or are there dangers involved? Then there's personal risks. You know, there's the risks that you might, the risks to your health, the risks to your mental health, your physical health, your sanity, your self-care, the risk that your business can take over who you are. And then there's the spiritual risks, you know, your values and vision. Where are you compromising your what you believe and your faith in how life should be in exchange for what you're doing in your business? Are there clashes? Are there tensions? Are there areas of discomfort where things aren't quite aligned? All of those areas actually need to have attention paid to them, because they are all areas where risks can arise, not just within the commonly understood legal, financial, and technical areas. Okay, so how risk shows up. Risk shows up in our business in all of these areas in a number of different ways, and the most common ways are it shows up overtly as a threat or an opportunity that's sort of either in your face or on the horizon, something that's sort of foreseeable in the future, something that is like a niggling sort of a worry. And then those opportunities can also then be translated. They might be limiting beliefs. They might be things that are actually not something that can actually harm you, but it's still something that can hold you back, that can keep you small. That sort of fear of the unknown. You know, what if I become too successful? That's a risk. That's how an opportunity becomes a risk that can hold you back, but it's actually just a limiting belief once you unpack it and you realize that I can actually deal with all of these things. But risks are also real world dangers, and both threats and opportunities can be a danger. There's a danger that, for example, if you've got too many signups for a webinar, that your server could be flooded. You know, you could have too many people for your Zoom room or whatever else. Or a threat, you know, there could be actually an unhappy client because you haven't delivered what you've promised, and they actually are wanting to take that further. So yeah, and there's all sorts of compliance obligations and other things that we're going to talk about in a little while. But for now, just these three distinctions, these three ways to sort out risk, to conceptualize it. So it goes from being an uncertainty to being, is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? Is it a limiting belief? Is it a real world danger that needs you to take action straight away? And just starting to conceptualize and break the risk down into those categories is a start of a way to get a handle on what you need to do and how you need to approach it and manage it. So why do we manage our risk? And there's a number of reasons why it's really, really important that we actually get a handle on our risk and we take action in whatever way is necessary. When we suppress our anxiety and our fear, even about little tiny things, it has an effect on how we show up in our business. It saps our energy. And I've been experiencing this a lot lately. I've had a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety and fear around the course that I'm actually launching with this webinar. And it showed up in that lack of energy, that desire to hide, that, you know, going into hibernation and not promoting and launching and doing things like this webinar that was supposed to happen last week is happening now because I sabotaged the whole thing due to that suppressed fear and anxiety. And it was only once I brought that fear and anxiety out into the open and actually looked at what was causing it that I was able to take steps to address those issues. Suppressing your fear and anxiety can trap you into a negative mindset. You start thinking it's not going to work. there's no hope for this, it's not worth doing, I can't be bothered. All of those sort of thinking creeps in when you're suppressing that fear and anxiety instead of actually looking at it and thinking, yeah, actually I can deal with this. There's stuff I can do to make myself feel safer, to make myself feel more secure, to make myself feel like this has a chance. Suppressing the fear and anxiety can lead you to interpret the risk as a threat instead of an opportunity. So you'll become less likely to pursue it because you're focusing on the danger involved. You're focusing on, even unconsciously, you're focusing on how it can hurt you rather than how it can benefit you. And as I said, it results in subconscious sabotage, whether that plays out as procrastination, as hiding and going extremely introverted, as even manifesting unpleasant consequences. It's been known to, our thoughts become things and all of that law of attraction stuff. The more we go into that negative vibe instead of clearing out the risk that's causing us this fear, the more it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It starts to actually play out the way we're imagining it that it might play out. However, on the flip side, when you train yourself to explore risk and to expose that fear and anxiety in a calm and curious manner, you start to train yourself to make better decisions. The more you have confidence in your ability to make good decisions, the more likely you are to begin to see risk as an opportunity rather than as a threat, and to really capitalize on the avenues for growth that it provides rather than shutting down. Having a positive view of risk as an opportunity then lets you reach higher and for your business to thrive, and also for your business to build a business that's more resilient and more capable of surviving those little inevitable hiccups and bumps in the road. Having an attitude that leads you to constantly unpack your worries and make good business decisions then improves your sustainability, which is your ability to survive into the future. And achieving that balance between challenge and opportunity and security against threat then leads you to that peaceful mindset, that business serenity, where you can start manifesting all the good stuff and calling in all the positivity and the high vibes. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into why it's so important to actually pay attention to risk and to consciously take steps, take action to sort out those limiting beliefs and those real-world dangers and those threats and opportunities, and make conscious plans and decisions on how to deal with them. So let's move into good governance and what good governance is. It's a term that's generally confined to corporations or nations or not-for-profits and areas like that, but it just has just as much relevance to micro businesses and small to medium enterprises. Governance is simply, at its most simplest, it's just a fancy word for the way you do things, how you operate your business. And good governance, as we've just discussed in relation to risk, good governance simply involves making conscious choices about how to make your business the absolute best it can be. It's your commitment to good practice. And we're going to unpack that into a lot more detail and look at how you can actually implement good practice in your business. Because the more you pay attention to good governance, the more you commit to having a business that runs with good governance, the more chance you have for your business will survive for the long term. So, what are the principles of good governance? What does it actually mean? And we've already said that it's your commitment to best practice. But the key here is that it is your commitment, your individual, your soul, your business's commitment to best practice. And because we don't have that sort of inherited boring framework that comes from corporate tradition, we actually have the ability as creative, intelligent entrepreneurs to construct our own framework of boundaries, systems, and processes. That's what good governance looks like for us. It's our own vision and value made concrete in our boundaries, systems, and processes. It's our own alignment with what we believe best practice should be for our business. Now, it also includes some external compliance and accountability, because we do not operate our business in a vacuum. We have to answer to people, and who we answer to, just getting clear on that is a great first step in bringing in good governance. You know, you're accountable to the government, but what are you accountable for? You're accountable to the fair trading bodies for your consumer compliance, but what are you actually obligated to do? What does your accountability involve? You're accountable to your clients, and what does that look like for you? You're accountable to the people you work with, your colleagues, your friends, your subcontractors, your employees, all of the people that you work with who assist you in providing your product. You're accountable to them. And how does that work, and how is that relationship managed? You're accountable to your family. You know, you're accountable to the people that you promise things to outside your family. There's all of these web of accountability that you need, and things where you need to be compliant with what you've said you're going to do, or with obligations that are imposed on you externally. And having a clear picture of what that looks like is extremely important. Then there comes setting up the structure that supports you to do your best work. And they say that even a sole trader should set up their business as much as they can afford to do so, as if they had 100 employees, as if they had intended to have 1,000 employees in the future, and to just keep that awareness that this business has the potential to grow. Because the more you hold that awareness, and the more you set things up, begin as you mean to go on, the more future-proofed you are, the more chance there is that that growth can happen without major disruption. So that's why putting these structures in place and actually paying attention to these kinds of concepts from a very early stage is so important. And yeah, are you prepared to grow? Do you take time to regularly review and look at, where are the cracks in my foundations? What are the things that are holding me back from actually expanding? Where am I going to be likely to sabotage myself because I don't feel safe, because I don't have those foundations fully in place yet? I don't feel safe. We can go to such an effort to build magnificent castles in the air when we're visualizing and dreaming about and planning our business offerings. But if they don't feel safe, if they're not grounded down on solid foundations, we're never going to have the guts and the courage to actually invite people in the door and sell those products to their full potential, or those services to their full potential. So we need to have that system that supports us, and that comes from making conscious decisions that are based on and aligned with our vision, our purpose in actually being in business, and our strategy for how that business is going to actually interact in the here and now, but also evolve. Another principle of good governance is to invite feedback, to actually be welcoming of complaints, to really check in with people constantly, so that we can catch our errors early rather than we don't make mistakes, to actually be proactive around seeking out where am I not doing my absolute best, and how can I put structures around that to improve it? How can I handle those? How can I catch those mistakes internally early and address them? How can I accept responsibility for where I haven't delivered to my full potential? How can I acknowledge where problems are where I've contributed to problems, and how am I going to address that? And doing so is a fantastic way to head off some of those other things that we were worried about before, those fears about liability and, you know, complaints and refund requests and all of those sorts of things, by actually being really proactive, having an open door policy where you're constantly asking people, are you happy? And then finally, our 100% commitment to consumer care, standing up and taking on our professional responsibility and having really, really thorough understanding of what that means in the concept of our business. So even if you don't consider yourself to be a professional, because you're not in an industry that generally has that professional label, there's nothing stopping you from actually investigating in your own mind, what does professional responsibility look like in my business? What are my obligations towards my client? What am I promising them? And how am I making sure that I will deliver on what I've promised? Where are the places where I'm putting them at risk? Where am I exposing my clients to threats and real world dangers? And how can I make things safer for them? And also clearly communicating your boundaries. So creating boundaries isn't any good to anybody unless you clearly communicate them. And part of your risk that you're managing is the anxiety and the fear and the uncertainty and the worry that exists in your client's mind. So you might think you have no risks because you're not exposed, you're not suffering from any anxiety or uncertainty. But where are your clients suffering from that anxiety and uncertainty? And where can you smooth their way and take away that risk, that sense of threat from them, but through your clear communication? So I hope that's given you a better idea of what the principles of good governance might look like and how you might develop those boundaries, systems, and processes in your own business. And moving on, we're going to look at why you might want to do this, the benefits of good governance. Building your business around a culture of excellence right from the beginning. When you start creating that blueprint or DNA of your organization from day one, even when there's only you in your business, showing up as the leader you intend to be defines your presence in the marketplace. It carves out your space, who you are. It brings people to follow you. It attracts your like-minded clients. And when you get to the stage where you're ready to start outsourcing, when you're ready to bring in people to work with you in whatever capacity, then it really makes it so much easier for them to step into the culture of your organization and to really be an integrated part of your values and vision, to understand and act in alignment with you, rather than being a disruptive force, being someone who could damage your reputation, being someone who could bring risk with them. So making that commitment to leadership from the very, very beginning and getting clear on what that means to you is actually an essential step in future-proofing your business, because that clarity of vision is what will carry you forward. And checking in with that constantly as you evolve, seeing how your role as leader is evolving and what different things are required from you as that grows. Also helps you to be so transformative in whatever industry you're in. We are proponents of the new paradigm of business, and unless we live that truth, unless we are firm in our commitment to connection and caring in every aspect of how we do our business, in every aspect of our leadership, then we're not living up to that dream of how we're going to change the world. Good governance ensures that we deliver quality, and quality is what drives our business performance. It's what attracts clients to our door. It's what turns our clients into raving fans who then go out and sell our services for us. Our reputation in business is our most valuable asset. In the online world, testimonials, referrals, and collaborations are key to success, and all of those things come from that commitment, that absolute commitment to quality and best practice. And the more we implement principles of good governance, the more we stand forth as the leader that we believe we are, the more we provide that quality of service, the more we reap that benefit in people selling our work for us, people flocking to our door to get what we want because we are that shining beacon. And good governance, our commitment to good governance, our commitment to best practice, our commitment to implementing that in every aspect of our business, to having the systems and processes and policies that make that easy and consistent and repeatable, they are what build us as that lighthouse. And that they give us that benefit of people coming to buy from us because they believe in us. Another benefit of good governance is managing mistakes, because all businesses have problems. Every single one of us makes mistakes. We all fall down. Our commitment to good governance encourages us to be prepared, willing, and able to identify those issues at a really early stage and address them with integrity. This limits the potential for those errors to damage our business. And it also gives us that ability to discuss our shortcomings with authenticity, to stand strong and say, look, we are leaders, we are fallible, we are flawsome, we're not perfect, but we are the best that we can be, and we are committed to constantly improving that. And research has shown that businesses who honestly admit to having made an error, to having done something wrong, and explain openly and transparently and honestly how they're going to address that problem, actually gain more market share, actually are more likely to retain their clients and to bring in new clients than those who try and sweep it under the carpet, to cover up, to not have that transparency and that accountability. Another benefit of good governance is that it increases our financial stability. It reduces those threats that come with safety, legal performance, warranty concerns, consumer obligations, all of those things. And it brings in the systems and processes that ensures we have the money ready to pay our bills, that we have a refund policy that we can live with, and that our clients, that's been clearly communicated to our clients. So we never end up in that massive hemorrhage of time and money and stress and emotional clarity that comes with having legal proceedings brought against us, or bankruptcy, or any of those sorts of things, or consumer complaints, because we have all those systems in place to avoid them. So we never end up in a courtroom because we've dealt with that problem way earlier through our commitment to best practice. And good governance results in smoother running overall, because we spend less time firefighting. We're not running around managing risk after risk after risk when it eventuates. We're not constantly dealing with crises. We're not waiting until things go boom and then try and fix them. Through our proactive observation, curiosity, getting down deep into what makes our business tick and how we want it to operate, we have actually set up the processes that mean we have less files overall. We have less problems overall. We make less mistakes because we've got those checks and balances in place. We've got those repeatable procedures. We know what we're doing, and we're doing it to the best of our ability. So what does this look like in practice? How can we actually implement good governance? How can we implement risk management? How can we future-proof our business? And I'm just going to touch on a few of the most important, what I see as 5 of the most important things. And I unpacked this really thoroughly in my Future Proof Challenge, which I'll be running again next year if it interests you. But just as a really quick overview, first, getting in contact with your intuition. And it may seem like a funny thing for a lawyer to say, but intuition is such a powerful warning system. However, how many times has a client come to me with a problem, with an unhappy client of theirs, with someone who's made a complaint, who's someone who's pushing all of their buttons and they just want them to go away, and they said to me, I knew they were going to be a problem from the very first time they contacted me. You know? How many times have you felt that, oh, I really should do something about that, but it just keeps slipping down the important but not urgent list until the explosion happens, kaboom, and then you're left picking up the pieces. Intuition is a powerful warning system. Trust your gut feeling. Train yourself to notice when something feels wrong and unpack why that is and work out how you can make it feel right or choose to walk away from it. Really, your intuition, empower your intuition, because that will do more than anything else to keeping you safe. Another way we can implement good governance, best practice, risk management in our business is through clear, consistent communication. And we've already talked about inviting feedback before it becomes a complaint, but actually committing to having that clear communication in every aspect of your business, through your contracts, through your marketing, through every post you make on social media, being clear, being consistent, being really, really solid in how you show up in the world. Thinking about what other people need to hear from you, finding out where the ambiguity exists and clarifying it. Really making, it's not enough to just make those systems and those policies, but communicating to them to the people who need to know about them in a way that they can really easily absorb and understand. There's so many jokes out there, and it's true. How many times do you click the terms and conditions without ever reading it? And yet those terms and conditions are what are managing your responsibility and your obligations and your relationship with that person or that business. So making your terms and conditions accessible so that people can actually not only can read them, but they want to read them because they understand how much care you've put into preparing them. It's essential. Another essential factor in best practice, in good governance, in risk management is knowing the rules that apply to you. Actually getting up close and curious with them and investigating what is this regulatory system that I operate in. And this is massive. It's, you know, one of the biggest things people say to me is they don't know what they don't know. And it's usually in relation to this area. So your registration and reporting obligations and what they actually mean, like understanding, okay, yes, I need to register a business name. Most people know that. Most people know that if they're trading under any name other than their own in Australia, they need to register that with the government, but they don't understand why. When you register a business name, it doesn't give you any ownership of the name. You register it for consumer protection so that the people who buy from you can have the faith in knowing that there is a real person who can be held accountable behind that name that you are putting out there, which is not your name. So there's all sorts of regulations around that. There's regulations around your use of intellectual property. So there's not just the business name regulations, there's the trademark issue, and the need for due diligence around that name and whether it's safe for you to use. There's copyright and intellectual property considerations. There's taxation and financial reporting obligations. There's data and privacy storage compliance and reporting obligations when there's a breach. All of these sorts of obligations that impact, if you become a corporation, then the amount of reporting obligations that are on you as a director step up massively. And that's the point when most people start to think, oh, risk management is something, maybe I need good governance and risk management now because the obligations on me are even that much more important. But there's actually less risk once you become a corporation, because the corporation actions against the corporation are confined to the corporation's assets, to your company assets. When you're a sole trader, actions are against you personally, and they can affect your home and your car and your personal assets. So there's actually more reason why you should be aware of your registration and reporting obligations, the regulatory environment in which you operate as a sole trader, than when you become a corporation. You should take an interest in that stuff right now. Consumer protection obligations are generally quite poorly understood. All of the stuff about truth in advertising, about what you can offer and how you offer it, and when you have to give people their money back and when you don't. All of those things, the fair trading laws, the ombudsman, and the avenues for people to access if they have a complaint about you. Understanding how that whole system works is incredibly important for you in your commitment to best practice. Knowing the industry that you operate in and any professional considerations that apply to you personally. This is one that most people are pretty good with, because it tends to be touched on in your professional education when you're learning. But if you've come through, for example, a non-registered coaching school, or you've made up your business, you're a psychic or a tarot card reader, and there's no external professional considerations, that doesn't mean you're immune. Your industry has its own unique subset of risk, and determining for yourself what is professional best practice. What does that mean to me in my business, in my industry? What should it be like for the whole industry? And how am I going to embody that in a way that will lift the game for my whole industry and make the world a better place through my participation in it, through my professional obligations? Powerful stuff. And then there's your operating environment and your relationships. And this could cover everything from your ability to run a business from your home or to lease premises, to workplace health and safety stuff, to employees, to subcontractors, to, do you have an actual agreement with your VA? To falling into a collaborative relationship where you just start working together because you love each other and you're great at what you do together, but without any of the structure that you need to actually put in place to manage that relationship in a way that is sustainable and allows you to tidily separate when the time comes for that relationship to be over. Doing all of that stuff at an early stage, paying attention to what is required and how to do it in the best possible way, really is what sets you up for your successful future. Being proactive about your boundaries. So I did a little poll recently and I asked people which they identified more. Were they the ostrich with their head buried in the sand? Were they the mama duck, chasing so many ducklings running at you from so many directions? Or were they that inner CEO eagle, getting that overview of their domain and really keeping their eyes on being able to see the forest and the trees? And a lot of that comes down to boundaries. A lot of that whole mama duck distraction and overwhelm comes down to getting clear on what your boundaries are, what they need to be, saying no, managing your time, managing your communication, setting your business up as a separate entity, aligning all of these things with your values and vision for your business, and keeping that check and balance of who am I, what am I doing here, what is best practice, is what helps you shift from that overwhelmed, flustered, drawn in 50 million different directions, mama duck, into that eagle mentality where you're soaring over your business and you've got that observer role, you've got that capacity to notice when something is not going the way it should be and take action on it quickly. So yeah, absolutely being proactive around your boundaries, thinking about what those boundaries need to be, making sure they're internally aligned, and then making sure you apply them externally in a consistent manner is one of the major things that makes the difference in best practice, and also in your comfort levels, your sense of security, your sense of safety, and that then leads to you wanting to be in business for a longer term, and the long-term sustainability and survivability of your business. Finally, activating your inner explorer. So getting really curious about how your business operates, turning fear into fun. A lot of what we've talked about today can seem pretty heavy. It can seem like something that would increase your overwhelm. And that's why I really have taken a very, very playful approach to Castle Quest, which I'll talk about in a minute. But my approach to good governance, setting up good governance and risk management for entrepreneurs, if it's not fun, we're not going to do it. You know, if it's all about looking at risks and you know, mapping it out in a way that's that whole corporate risk management matrix where you've got, you know, the severity of risk managed against the likelihood of it happening, and your traffic light, you know, green is go, yellow, amber is dangerous, you know, you're in dangerous territory, and red is stop, you're about to get into massive trouble. And having to run everything past that, it's boring, it's mind-numbing, it's soul-destroying, and we're never going to do it. It doesn't fit our business. So looking for ways to make this playful, looking for ways to make this curious. So, you know, setting yourself a little scavenger hunts up for your obligations, finding like-minded people within your industry to have a chat about what does best practice look like for us. Let's have a brainstorming session, bringing in the community, getting really caring in your contracts, so that, and your boundary setting, so that you're actually aligning and holding your value and vision there, so that you remember what you're doing this for, and really taking the attitude of curiosity. Okay, what else could be possible? What else could we do with this? How can we make this grow? How can we be the leaders we want to be in a fun and playful and exciting way? Absolutely essential, because as I said, if you keep focusing on that negative, if you let the fear and anxiety grow and grow, and you approach your risk management and your good governance from a mindset of fear and anxiety and protecting your ass and covering, you know, all of that stuff, covering yourself against loss and damage and danger, then it's icky. It's got all of that negative attraction we were talking about before. Whereas if you take it from like, I want to be the lighthouse, I want to be the shining star, I want to be the model that transforms my industry, that transforms who I am and who I can be, and be the absolute best I can be, and how can I make this happen, and what are the puzzle pieces that need to be in place for this to work, then you are going to actually set your business up for the future in a way that will explode into all of the possibilities and really live your best and fullest potential. And that's what we want, and that's why we want to get you into risk management and good governance in a way that's fun and playful and exciting. It's a game. It needs to be a game so that we enjoy doing it. Otherwise, why bother? Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I hope you've got a lot of value out of that and that it's really helped you think about good governance and risk management from maybe an unusual perspective, but actually to relate it to who you are in your business and how you want your business to operate. If you'd like to take this further and go even deeper into this and actually take the step of having support to start applying these principles to your business, I'm now offering my signature program, which is Castle Quest. It's available worldwide, which is a distinction from my legal services, because my legal services are only available in Australia and New Zealand. But Castle Quest is something different. Castle Quest, you're bringing the information and the advice, and I'm guiding you and holding your hand to actually explore all these issues in a really fun and playful and focused and practical way, to really unpack those fears and worries and anxieties, to really get up close and personal and curious about what you need to do to be successful, what best practice means to you, and how and what you need to create to make it, to bring it into being, to actually birth that business that has that long-term survivability, birth yourself as a leader and a lighthouse. So it's an 11-week program. It's all fully practical. There's 11 weeks. Almost every week we'll have a 90-minute call. The price that it's selling for is $2,200. That's what I'm offering it for into the market. To be full disclosure, I haven't sold any at that price because this is the pilot round. And a special for this webinar only, and it's also out in my newsletter at the moment, is you can join us for just $16.50 Australian, and that includes GST. And I want to make this accessible for everyone. So payment plans are available. And the payment plan is what you can afford. So you tell me how we need to divide that amount up, how often it needs to be paid, and we will make that the payment plan. And I'm happy to meet you halfway and to negotiate what that could look like to make that possible for you. The problem is that we're running out of time. We start on Friday. I'm quite happy to take late entries up until next week, when we really get into next Friday, when we really get into the juicy stuff. This Friday is just going to be the introduction and the housekeeping. So feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email at michelle@michellewhitehead.com.au. Send me a message on Facebook. Anything you like to, any way of getting in contact with me that you know of, reply to any of the webinar emails that you received. They'll all come back to me, and let me know that you're interested, and we can have a quick chat about what's involved, answer any of your questions, and make it possible. I will be running it again next year. This will be my it will run constantly from now on in third quarter of each year. But the pilot round is going to be probably the most valuable round, because you're going to get the most of my time, and you'll be co-creating the course with me. So we'll be really, really proactively getting involved in what this looks like and how can we serve you to the best of my ability, and what support do you need, and how can I give that to you to the full. You know, we'll be designing what this Castle Quest Lighthouse looks like. And I'm calling it Castle Quest the Serenity Shift, because it really does, we looked at the benefits of good governance, and that is where we're moving towards, is really giving you that shift into the serenity of knowing that you can have full confidence in your foundations, that you can build. And it's 100% playful. It really is. We're going to be talking about castles and dragons and superheroes, and really keeping this as light and as joyful as we possibly can. I look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions about that. So, yeah. If you have any questions relating to this webinar and the things that I've talked about, definitely feel free to contact me. It is Michelle at michellewhitehead.com.au, and I'm always happy to hear from you. You can also, if you see this video on YouTube, you're also welcome to leave a comment or a question there, and I'd be happy to answer that. And that brings us to our hour exactly. So thank you very much for joining me for this this webinar. I hope that you have got a lot out of it and that you now have a much better understanding of how those corporate style principles of risk management and good governance can actually impact on your business and how you can step up to being the business owner that you really want and need to be. Thank you very much. I'm Michelle Whitehead, and it's been lovely talking to you today. Bye. And I'll see you next webinar.